Good day everyone, I am Eunice Cedar from BC3-I2 and today I will be continuing the report of our group mates. So language change, as certain changes may be introduced at first as an optional rule by any speaker of the language and spread gradually through an entire speech community. New vocabulary can be invented or adapted from other languages. So how languages are changing? So according to my research in the Google, language is always changing. We've seen that language changes across space and across social group. So language also varies across time. Generation by generation, pronunciation evolve. New words are borrowed or invented. The meaning of old words drifts and morphology develops or decays. The example of language change are as in bet and as in bit. So the short E vowel there is the bet, B-E-T, and the short I vowel that are the same word is the B-I-T as in beat. So there are the same other example like pen and pin, him and hem are also the homophones that are words pronounced the same. A basic cause of language change is the way children acquire language. Each child constructs a personal grammar on his or her own, which he or she derives from a diverse linguistic input. Next, the Philippine linguistic situation. The term Philippine language has been used ambiguously in literature. It is used to refer either to any language native to the Philippines without regards to its genetic affiliation, or to any member of a putative subgroup of Austronesian languages located in the Philippine island. So the Philippine language or the PL will be used to refer to the latter. As you can see in my presentation, there is a map wherein there are different types of color that are parts or the belong of the Philippine language. There are the Bicolano, Bisaya or Binisaya, Cebuano, Higilaynon or Ilonggo, Ilocano, Tagalog, Tausug, Waray, and that part of the Diamond is the only a plurality. Next is the language versus dialect. Most speakers and users of the Philippine languages, including the national mass media, have little, if not none, idea regarding the status of their own native language. They often refer to them as dialects, with only English and Filipino having the official status of languages in their minds. So there are two kinds of criteria that are used to distinguish languages from dialects, so social and political and linguistic. The first typical view is the languages as prestigious, official, and written, while the dialects are mostly spoken, unofficial, and associated with groups lacking in prestige. So there are the people confusing about the differences of the language and the dialect. So language is the word and expressions used and understood by a large group of people, the English language or the spoken or written words, while the dialect is a form of language that is spoken in the particular part of the country or by the particular group of people. So, if speakers of the two speech varieties can have a conversation and understand each other, so they are using dialects of a single language. While if the speakers of two speech varieties converse and do not understand each other, so they are using two distinct languages. So this called about the mutual intelligibility, wherein for example, for me, I can speak English, Tagalog, and also Cebuano or the Bisaya. So that's the mutual intelligibility. So another measure for distinguishing a language from a dialect is a grammar. So if the speech variety has different grammar, then it is the different language. So the Filipino, the national language of the Philippines, can be considered the Tagalog variety, spoken in Metro Manila, sharing identical grammar with other Tagalog varieties. So there we have different languages through we communicate people. For example, for the foreign, we speak English, and also they speak in English, but for it will be depends on our grammar, because our dialect is the Cebuano or the Bisaya, so they can understand if we speak the Bisaya. So we must be communicate. Next is the dialectal variation, varies from language to language. Tagalog and Kapampangan have very moderate dialectal variation. So dialects of Bicol, however, exhibit great dialectal variations. So what is this mean dialectal variation? So a dialect is variation in grammar and vocabulary in addition to sound variations. So, for example, if one person utters the sentence, John is a farmer, and another says the same thing except pronounces the word farmer as a farmer, then the difference is one of accent. So, why is dialectal variation is important? Because it contribution of cultural values regards to the different ways of using the language functions or other aspects of language like vocabulary, pronunciation, and so forth. So we can understand by using dialect for other people of how we communicate them. So I will show you the video about the endangered and extinct languages in the Philippines.
Mabuhay, or in Kapampangan, luwid kayo. Today's question comes from Mark of Canada. Mark asks, Kuya Kirby, how many languages do they speak in the Philippines? Okay, so in many of my videos, I've always talked about the many diverse languages of the Philippines. So now I bet that many of you are like Mark, who is wondering exactly how many languages are there in the Philippines. Now, according to the most recent data from ethnologue.com, the Philippines today has a total of 185 languages. 185. So let's break it down. Out of the total of 185, 183 of them are considered to be living languages, while sadly, 2 are extinct. Now, from the 183 living languages, 175 of them are considered indigenous or native to the islands of the Philippines, while the other 8 are considered non-indigenous or not originally from the archipelago. And then, 39 of these languages are considered institutional or having some form of official use. 67 are developing, and 38 are vigorous, while unfortunately 28 of them are in trouble, and sadly 11 of them are dying. Yes, if we don't do anything about it, sooner or later we might just lose more than a few dozen languages forever. Now, the problem lies not in the number of languages, but in the laws and practices of the Philippines as a nation. For example, Kapampangan, one of my own mother tongues, today, despite being one of the top 8 languages in the Philippines, in Angeles City and in the province of Pampanga, the heartland of the Kapampangan society, the motherland of the Kapampangan people, many parents do not speak Kapampangan to their Kapampangan children. It's a sad reality that many Kapampangans today prefer to talk to their children in English or Tagalog, rather than teach them our own indigenous mother tongue. And if we don't do anything about it now, Kapampangan might just disappear forever. And when we stop speaking our mother tongues, when we stop passing it down to the next generation, we are literally losing grip of our own culture and identities, of our own unique heritage. Despite being languages of their own right, the non-Tagalog languages of the Philippines, such as Kapampangan, Cebuano, Ilocos, Waray, Bicolano, Tausug, Maranao, Aitamaganchi, Aitamagindi, Teduray, Itnig, Itawes, Ibanag, and many others are demoted to just mere dialects of the national language called Filipino, which in turn is actually based from the Tagalog spoken in the capital city of Manila. From then till now, many schools in the Philippines actually forbid and sometimes even punish children from speaking native languages other than English or Filipino. And for me, that is one of the many reasons why, despite having a literacy rate of 95%, our people are somewhat detached from our own diverse indigenous roots and somewhat unaware of our own colorful cultures and unique heritage. While many developed and progressive countries around the world celebrate the value of being multilingual, the sad reality in the Philippines today is that our own beautiful, indigenous, diverse mother tongues are being neglected and dying. Now, once a language dies, what is buried is not just a simple set of words, a simple set of grammar rules or dictionaries, but we also lose thousands of years worth of cultural knowledge, of wisdom, of heritage that our own ancestors had passed down to us, that many of our ancestors had died fighting to protect our own unique identities. But luckily, there are those who are fighting hard to protect and preserve our own mother tongues and unique cultural heritage, such as Sinupan Sing Sing in Angeles City, an institution that I wholeheartedly support and always visit whenever I come home to the motherland. Now, luckily for me, I can still speak Kapampangan and Tagalog fluently, and I would still love to learn how to speak Pangasinan and Naita Magindi. So what about you? What are your mother tongues and do you still speak them? Let me know in the comments below. And that is it for me today.